You have never fired a gun. In an organization built on violence, this is unusual enough that people ask about it. You have a standard answer. You tell them that the men with guns solve problems after they become unsolvable. You solved them before, which means you are, in a purely practical sense, more valuable than any gunman in the organization. The math of this is simple. A solved problem costs nothing. An unsolved problem costs bodies and product and time and attention from law enforcement and the downstream consequences of all of those things. They nod when you say this. They don't fully believe it. Men who have built their power on the credibility of violence find it difficult to accept that a man who has never used violence is more powerful than they are. But they accept the results. And in this organization, results are the only argument that matters. You have been negotiating for the cartel for 11 years. You are 43 years old. You have never been arrested, never been charged, and your name does not appear in any law enforcement database connected to cartel activity. Because you are not the kind of person law enforcement databases are built to catch. You are not a trafficker, not an enforcer, not a logistics coordinator. You are a problem solver, and problem solving leaves less evidence than any other function in this business. This is the story of how you got here, and more importantly, how it ends. Your first career was legitimate. Corporate law in Mexico City, mergers and acquisitions, 12-hour days in glass offices negotiating deals between companies whose names you read in the newspaper. You were good at it. You understood early that negotiation is not about finding the middle ground. The middle ground is where people go when they don't know what they want. Real negotiation is about understanding what the other party needs versus what they're saying they want and finding the solution that gives them the need while costing you as little as possible on the want. This is a skill. Not everyone has it. Most people in a negotiation are managing their emotions and their position simultaneously, and the two things interfere with each other. You learned early to separate them. Emotion tells you information. It doesn't tell you what to do. You practiced this for 8 years in corporate law, then your firm acquired a client you didn't ask questions about. Because in Mexico City in the early 2000s, certain clients were not clients you asked questions about. The first thing they needed was straightforward: a land dispute. Property in a northern state that two parties were fighting over, and both parties wanted resolved without courts. Courts meant records. Records meant attention. You mediated a resolution in 3 meetings. Clean. Both parties got something. Nobody went to court. Nobody made a scene. The client asked for you by name on the next matter. After the third matter, the man who ran the client's legal relationships sat across from you and offered you a number that made your corporate salary look like a student allowance. He told you the work was the same work you'd been doing: dispute resolution, negotiation, problems that needed solving before they became unsolvable. You asked the right questions and got satisfying answers to the wrong ones. The questions you should have asked, you already knew the answers to and preferred not to have confirmed. You said yes, the work is exactly what he said it was, except for the part where it isn't. The disputes are real. 2 cartel factions fighting over a distribution corridor in Sonora. A supplier in Colombia whose shipment was shorted and who is making threats that will escalate if not addressed. A local government official whose cooperation has become uncertain and who needs to be reminded of his situation in terms that are clear, but that don't generate a paper trail. You handle all of these. The skills transfer directly. The same reading of what someone needs versus what they're saying. The same patience with silence. The same ability to stay in a room with a man who is angry and let the anger burn down to something workable without reacting to the heat of it. What is different is the backdrop. In corporate law, a failed negotiation meant someone filed a lawsuit. Here, a failed negotiation means someone ends up in a car trunk. This backdrop is never explicit, and nobody says it out loud in your presence. But it is present in every room you work in, structurally, the way a load-bearing wall is present in a building. You don't always see it, but the building's shape is defined by it. You become very good at not failing. Year 4, you negotiate a truce between 2 factions that have been killing each other's people for 14 months over a territory in Tamaulipas. The talks take 6 weeks, 3 sessions, each session with different principals in different locations, because getting the actual decision makers in the same room simultaneously creates security problems you have spent years learning to avoid. You shuttle between them, carry proposals, modify them, carry them back. The formal negotiation theory calls this shuttle diplomacy. In this context, it is shuttle diplomacy with the understanding that one wrong interpretation of a message could restart the killing before you can get back to the other room. The truce holds for 3 years. In the context of cartel territorial disputes, 3 years is a generation. You become known for this. The man who can stop the bleeding, the man who finds the number that both sides can live with. Senior leadership values you in the specific way that senior leadership values something irreplaceable. They protect you. They give you things you didn't ask for. A compound outside the city, security, assurances that your family is untouchable. You stop thinking of these as gifts around year 6. By year 6, you understand they are also a system. You are inside the compound. Your family is in a house connected to the organization. The protection and the captivity are the same structure. You understood this intellectually from the beginning. Understanding it intellectually is different from living inside it. Year 9, you are asked to negotiate something different. A DEA informant inside the organization has been identified. The informant has been feeding information to American law enforcement for approximately 18 months. The damage is significant. 3 operations burned, 2 senior logistics coordinators arrested, a supply route compromised. The cartel knows who the informant is. The question they bring to you is not punishment. Punishment is not a negotiation. The question is the informant's family. Several members of the family are not involved in the organization and have no knowledge of the informant's activities. The senior leadership wants to know if there is a version of this situation that resolves the informant problem without creating additional problems through what happens to the family. They are asking you to negotiate the terms of a man's death. You have known for 9 years that the backdrop was there, the load-bearing wall. You have built your professional identity on operating in the space before the wall becomes load-bearing, solving problems early, keeping the building intact. You have told yourself with genuine conviction that your work has net positive value, that the truces you brokered saved more lives than the violence that would have occurred without you. That the math works. The math worked right up until this room. You tell them you need 48 hours to think about the situation strategically. They agree. Because you have never needed more than 24 hours before, and the extra time request signals to them that you are taking it seriously. You spend those 48 hours doing something you have never done in 11 years of this work. The DEA liaison you contact has a name you obtained through a channel so indirect it would take 6 months to trace back to you. You contact him from a phone that has never been in your possession before and will be destroyed immediately after. You have one thing to offer, and you know its value precisely because you have spent 11 years in rooms where the value of information was the only currency. What you know about the organization's structure, its current operations, its leadership's names and locations and habits, is significant enough that the conversation lasts 4 hours and the liaison asks you to hold on twice to bring additional people into the call. You negotiate your own terms. You have been doing this for 11 years. You know what you need and you know what they need, and you find the number. Immunity, relocation, your family, the informant's family, and you make this explicit. You are not in this conversation without that condition. They agree. The 48 hours expires. You deliver an answer to the cartel leadership. You tell them you have found a resolution to the informant situation that avoids additional exposure. You provide them enough specifics to be credible. You tell them it will take 2 weeks to implement and requires your direct management. 2 weeks is the window the DEA needs. The operation that comes down is the largest in the agency's history against this specific organization. 64 arrests in 4 countries in a single week. The senior leadership, including the man who hired you 11 years ago, is among those arrested. Your name is not in the press release. You are in a city you have never been to before, a mid-sized city in a country whose language you are learning. Your wife is taking a class 3 days a week. Your daughter is in a school that she likes and that she describes at dinner with the specific enthusiasm of someone who doesn't know yet how strange the path was that brought her to this particular table in this particular city. You work as a consultant, business mediation, legitimate companies with legitimate disputes. The skills transfer perfectly as you always knew they would. Sometimes you sit across from a man in a conference room and you watch him manage his emotions and his position simultaneously, and you see exactly what he needs versus what he's saying he wants, and you find the number before he does, and you watch his face when he realizes the thing has been resolved. You are very good at this. You have always been very good at this. The difference now is what's behind the wall, the backdrop, the load-bearing structure that defines the shape of the room you're in. In this room, if the negotiation fails, someone files a lawsuit. You find, to your genuine surprise, that you can work with that. That's a wrap for today. If this one hit different, drop a comment and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next one.